voice in Louisiana and New Orleans-based radio legend who has a national reach, our friend Jeff Crouere. We will be getting into a little bit of Monday morning quarterbacking with him on the election from this weekend and what we view as a great victory for the people against the political establishment. We'll also hear from him about an initiative that he is at the helm of to push back against the Landry administration's efforts to purchase new voting machines to the tune of more than $100 million of taxpayer money. Before we get into that, let me read the scriptures of the day, or the scripture of the day, rather. It's Ephesians chapter 1, verses 19 through 21. And it says, I pray that you will continually experience the immeasurable greatness of God's power made available to you through faith. Then your lives will be an advertisement of this immense power as it works through you. This is the mighty power that was released when God raised Christ from the dead and exalted him to the place of highest honor and supreme authority in the heavenly realm. And now he is exalted as first above every ruler, authority, government, and realm of power in existence. He is gloriously enthroned over every name that is ever praised, not only in this age, but in the age that is to come. And isn't it encouraging to remind ourselves that the Lord is exalted above every ruler, authority, government, and realm of power in existence? It's staggering if we try and step back and truly grasp that the greatness of the Lord's power is made available to us by faith because he wants our lives to advertise his goodness and his miraculous power that even overcomes death. So this morning I was thinking, what does it look like to live a life that advertises God's goodness? Well, I say it looks joy-filled. It looks like total confidence that the Lord and his angels are with us, protecting us, equipping us, and empowering us for whatever comes our way. It looks like boldness, fearlessness, courage, and the expectation that the Lord is working all things together for good in our lives. So let's make that our mindset and our approach today and see the difference that it makes.
Danielle, it's so interesting that you have that as the scripture today, and it talks about being joy filled. One of the tendencies after you achieve a success, a measurable success, particularly on these amendments, Constitutional Amendment 2, sometimes the tendency is to gloat. Sometimes the tendency is to get harsh. Sometimes the tendency is to engage in personal attacks. But joyful people don't do that.
That's right.
And we have to make sure that we maintain the same disposition that we have before and that we continue to direct people toward Christ. Because ultimately, if we're not doing that, then nothing else that we do means anything because everything temporal perishes. And we have to remember that. Speaking of our guest today, one thing I've always noticed about Jeff Crouere, really as a legendary figure now in Louisiana with the influence he has and the communications network that he has built up over many years, the host of Ringside Politics, among many other things. And one thing that I've noticed about Jeff, and I draw an example from this, is that everything that he does is focused on issues, on the record, and he will never hesitate to speak very candidly about the issues that are of critical importance to our state and country. But I've never seen him engage in a personal attack against anyone. And that is why he's a model for us and for so many others. Jeff Crouere, what a blessing and a pleasure to have you with us today.
Well, it's my honor to be with both of you, and thanks so much for having me. It's
Yeah.
a very eventful period of time.
Oh
Yes, it
my
is.
gosh. Is it? I want to get into what just happened in Louisiana, where it appears as though the governor and really the broad Republican establishment in Louisiana that was behind this constitutional amendment to and others received a real shellacking. The last statistic that I looked at, Jeff, showed that 35 of the 48 parishes that Governor Landry carried in his governor election rejected this amendment, despite his aggressive support of it. What is your takeaway? So eager to hear on
Well,
what happened over the weekend and thoughts going forward.
Chris, it was really amazing in New Orleans, which is, where I live, New Orleans area, spent a lot of time. There was a lot of interest in the election, a lot of grassroots activity, a lot of yard signs out for people to vote against all four. The turnout in New Orleans was higher than it was in the gubernatorial election. The vote was 91-9 against all four amendments. So we really had a big turnout from the left. And I do think part of it is a national motivation. People on the left are feeling, disenfranchised and angry, and they're mobilizing sometimes in very unfortunate ways, as we've seen at Tesla dealerships, and other ways they've just been, going to town hall meetings, and some acting inappropriately, to be honest with you. But they sort of channeled that into going against these amendments. And on the other side, you had church leaders, you had conservatives, you had people that just principled that for many reasons didn't like the way this was presented. So you had people on the right, people on the left coming together, which is a rarity in Louisiana politics. And
It's so true, Jeff. I said the last time I was lined up next to a Democrat was at a red light. But politics makes for strange bedfellows indeed, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And this was an example of that. You don't see it often, but you certainly saw it here. So it's sort of the left and the right against the middle. The establishment Republicans, the ones that were really pushing this, the big money Republicans, the party. And it was not something that people understood. It was not something that people were excited about. It was something that I think was a hard sell, confusing. So you had that element. Then you had the element of protecting churches, and then you had the anti-Landry, anti-Trump element. So it was all those different things together, and Landry just got blitzed. I mean, it was a humiliating loss. The four of them, pretty much people voted for all four, or they voted against all four. The numbers were so close. It was about 36% in favor, 64 opposed, almost a 2-to-1 shellacking.
And there's no way, Jeff, that could have happened without significant grassroots Republican opposition. So the notion that this was all about George Soros money or all about Democrats is really false.
Well, that is a convenient boogeyman for some Republicans to just blame everything on George Soros. But this was a much more complicated picture. And what's interesting is that, normally for a constitutional amendment election, the turnout will be in the high single digits, low double digits, not 11, 12%. This was 21%. So it's almost double what we normally see because of, I think, people, were motivated to go vote against it. And I do think you had different reasons for that. Now, the governor spent a lot of money, but he didn't spend a lot of time. I mean, he's been distracted. Let's face it. He's been up in Washington, D.C. almost as much as he's been in Baton Rouge.
Yep.
So I think that was a factor as well.
Yep. And Jeff, you mentioned the church leaders. It's been something that's been on my mind, that there were a number of church leaders that we have not really heard from before that got woken up by having their tax status somewhat threatened potentially. And it's just my encouragement that I'm happy that they were awakened by this. And I certainly hope that we will see them on some of the critical issues that our face is going to be, our state is going to be facing going forward, because their voice is clearly powerful. That's one thing that we can take away from this, is that when church leaders stand up and tell their congregations the truth about what is on the ballot, people will vote accordingly. And I hope that that's a lesson they take to heart, and I hope they don't sit down and shut back up.
I agree with you completely, Danielle, and I think their voices are needed, and certainly much more so than we've seen in the past. So maybe this will be the start of a new trend, and it'll be a very welcome trend. Let me also give credit to Pastor Spell.
Absolutely.
Who, I think really took a leadership role in this. He took a leadership role during COVID. and refused to abide by these unconstitutional mandates, and was really abused by the legal system, by the political system here in Louisiana, but stood tall, won at the Supreme Court level. So, I mean, he again showed leadership here in this issue. He doesn't care who he goes against, uh, whether it's John Bell Edwards or whether it's, you know, this governor, Jeff Landry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
And he's
great
already
point.
been he's already been to jail, right? So
He's already been to jail, and we need more, leaders, religious leaders, to take a cue from Pastor Spell. What a
y-
man of courage and a great American. There's no question that he was pivotal in defeating Constitutional Amendment 2. So I certainly second that commendation. You
yeah.
know, Jeff, our fundamental objection, LeCAG's on this, even more so than the questionable merits of the amendment, was the fact that there was such a huge discrepancy between what was written on the ballot language that 90% of the voters rely on to vote and what the bill actually does. And our position was, look, people can vote however they choose to vote. We live in a free country and you can do it privately and nobody can harass you for how you vote. But there's no way that anybody can make an informed decision about what they're voting on if the ballot language is misleading or confusing or incomplete or selective. And so that was really the fundamental issue because we thought it set a horrible precedent going forward. If the government can issue official ballot language that is not consistent with what the bill actually does, then that is a precedent going forward that really damages meaningful participation in the democratic process. What do you say?
I think that's a great point. I interviewed on my program the attorney who, filed that lawsuit about the deceptive ballot language, and I think he's another profile in courage for bringing it forward and making the point. He didn't prevail in court, but I think he prevailed in the court of public opinion, and I think a lot of people agreed that it's deceptive.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, there are so many different problems with this that there were a lot of reasons to vote against it, just not too many reasons to vote for it, except trust Governor Landry. That was pretty much what the message was. Trust
yeah,
him, it's good for the state. We'll keep Louisiana going forward. You don't want to stop it. And I thought it was unfortunate after the vote that he sort of condemned the voters of Louisiana
Yeah.
instead of saying, hey, I've learned my lesson. I'm going to go back to, my advisors and my supporters in the legislature. We'll take this into account. We'll revise what we're going to do. Instead, he just said, people don't know what's good for them, pretty much.
Yeah.
And we can't stand progress here in Louisiana.
Yeah, he
So
said that we're conditioned, a state conditioned for failure, which really, that totally got under my collar. And on that point, Jeff, La- Jeff Landry expended a tremendous amount of political capital specifically on Amendment 2. He had videos pushed out via text message from Don Jr. And Chris just told me this morning that some went out from 50 Cent, which blows my mind, to people around the state, encouraging them to vote for Amendment 2. And I mean, you both pretty much underscored this point, but this wasn't a just missed scenario on Amendment 2 or any of the amendments. It was a really damning defeat. What does this mean for Jeff Landry's political power going forward, his stature?
well, we look at the last election that he won, and it was a weak field. He did win in the first primary, so he wasn't forced into a runoff. He got, if I'm not mistaken, 52% of the vote in the first primary. So he did not have to go through a runoff, but it wasn't really strongly competitive. So he gets in there, he starts going, full steam ahead with a bunch of different agenda items, some that I did not support, like reapportionment at all. I thought that was
Hmm.
just horrible. They lost a congressional seat and didn't know what that was all about, a deal or whatever. But
Right.
I wanted a stronger primary party primary bill that was weakened. And then, of course, we got a crime package that I'm mostly in favor of, and a lot of other things that I'm in favor of. So it's a mixed bag right now. He's been able to tout some big economic projects that have come to Louisiana. That certainly I think we haven't seen in past administrations. He's got a very close relationship, obviously, with President Trump. But I think he needs to do a better job of listening to the grassroots and maybe spending more time traveling across Louisiana as opposed to being in DC.
Yeah, and it's, yeah, the statements, as Danielle said earlier, that he made after this loss Saturday night, does not suggest that he is inclined to take your advice. It suggests that he may be doubling down and deflecting accountability and responsibility to anyone and everyone and anything except himself. And it's hard. I think Louisiana voters and Louisiana citizens are good and compassionate people, and I think that they would respect a lot an acknowledgement of a mistake, even if it was not an unconditional mea culpa, some acknowledgement that we did some things wrong here, obviously, and what can we do better? As you said, Jeff, to go around the state and speak to grassroots organizations and talk to the people and open his ears and his heart to the people. And unfortunately, at least as of yet, we're not seeing that, are we?
No, and to be honest with you, I invited him on my program because I wanted to give the pro Second Amendment uh, forces a platform. I mean, I wanted to be even-handed. I wanted to show both sides. I wanted to have the governor on, and he didn't come on. Uh, on the other side, I had you and a lot of other people that were passionately opposed to it. But I wanted to have the main proponent, Governor Landry, to come on, and I was willing to give him as much time as he wanted. Made the offer multiple times, and he didn't take advantage of it. And I think he didn't take advantage of a lot of opportunities to speak to grassroots conservatives here in Louisiana. So I hope that this is a new direction that he goes in, because I think a lot of people could get behind growing the economy, uh, building new sectors of our economy here that he wants to do. There's some parts of his agenda that I think could be very popular. But he's got to have that conversation. He's got to reach out. He's got to, I think, double down on his grassroots efforts. And I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen or not.
Yeah. Does Governor Landry, read an interesting article by Scott McKay in the Hayride yesterday, and he says that Governor Landry at this point has a significant problem with his base, almost a rupture that he needs to repair. And probably a good way to do that is exactly how you suggested, Jeff. Does Governor Landry have a problem with his base?
I think he could have a problem with it. I mean, just to give you an example, so I hosted him on my Politics with a Punch show back in November, our stage show that we did, and I could just tell among the crowd there was a lot of support for him. Fast forward a few months, and we just had a Politics with a Punch last week, right before this election. And I could tell there was a different temperature in the audience. There was a different feeling about some of the things that were being pushed by the governor. And some things had changed in those months. And I think part of it is, maybe, he hasn't been focused on the state enough. Maybe he's been, in Washington too much. So I think there is a potential problem. I think he makes a good point. I think he can repair it, but he's got to reach out. He's got to listen, and maybe there's some parts of what the grassroots wants that he should adopt. And I don't think that what we've seen so far has been universally approved by grassroots conservatives. A lot of grassroots conservatives that I talk to, Chris, do not like Governor Landry, are pretty much fully opposed to him. Others still, have an open mind and want to work with him, want to support him. So this is a pivotal point, and I think he's got to, going forward, change his strategy, and hopefully he will.
Yeah, I hope he will. And Jeff, part of me thinks that people wouldn't mind, or some people wouldn't mind him being in Washington so much if some of Trump's MAGA agenda wore off on him. I think the problem is that he may be spending time there, and when he comes home, the agenda is not the MAGA agenda. The agenda is something else.
Let me give you an example. And I had this conversation with Governor Landry on my program. I mean, he's been on my program many times, mostly when he was Attorney General and when he was a candidate. I haven't been able to get him on as much, but we have gotten him on as governor. Carbon capture. I mean, he's in favor of that.
Right.
I think that is ludicrous. I mean, I do not support these projects. I think these projects are based on a hoax. I do not think that CO2 is dangerous and needs to be pumped underground. I think, in fact, it can cause environmental damage. People in the parishes where these projects are being slated don't want them. Chuck Owen told me he's got like 93% people in his parish don't want it. But, the governor's pushing that kind of project. And again, maybe it's, big money oil and gas folks that are seeing dollar signs and like it. But I don't think that is something that, grassroots conservatives support. And that goes against the Trump agenda. I mean, Trump has been denouncing these kinds of Green New Deal projects for years. Why are we doing it here in Louisiana?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Two quick points, Jeff, on the carbon capture sequestration. I'm so glad you brought that up. In the Florida Republican legislature now, there's some legislation pending there that is pro carbon capture sequestration, and Governor DeSantis has been absolutely blunt on the issue. I mean, I just saw a video yesterday or this morning where he says carbon capture sequestration is a scam. And we should not be focused on this when we have so many important issues in Florida that we have to deal with. He basically said, you send me anything like that, it's dead on arrival. And I wish that we could get a little bit of DeSantis into our governor on this issue. Last year, Jeff, there was a bill, a couple of bills that were designed to halt this rapid advance of CCS in Louisiana. One of them would have eliminated eminent domain that allows private corporations to basically seize the use of private property against the property owner's will for this CCS racket. And there was a bill to repeal that part of Louisiana law. And Jeff Landry, unfortunately, was nowhere to be found. And that bill was killed in a Republican-dominated House Natural Resources Committee. There was also a bill similar to the one that Chuck Owen is bringing right now that came last year that would have allowed local jurisdictions to decide the issue. And it was defeated also in committee. And those are two critically important bills that are pro-citizens and really emphasize the fact that we are sovereign. It's not big money. It's not big carbon capture. It's not big oil. The citizens are sovereign, and you can't assault basic jurisdictional sovereignty and property rights just because somebody's putting a lot of money into something. And where is Governor Landry on this issue? You're so right, and it is a huge issue in Louisiana right now, and getting even bigger.
Yeah, and I agree with you completely. We got to listen to the people, got to listen to the citizens. Another issue that I find baffling are wind farms. I mean,
Thank you.
These projects, again, that we're pursuing and pushing here in Louisiana, that I've had a problem with for years on my show, talking about all of the bird kills and the whale kills, and the recyclable issue with the parts, and the Chinese dominance, and on and on and on. The fact that the questionable effectiveness. Again, why are we doing those kind of projects here in Louisiana? Again, it's a head scratcher. And then you just got to look at the political connections, who's making money,
That's right.
who's behind it, and then you get to the whole good old boy Louisiana politics, politics as usual system that we have here. So we need to let these legislators know who's in charge, and hopefully the winner will be the people as opposed to the powerful special interests.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jeff, that's a great segue because I know you're at the helm now of an initiative that's bringing grassroots, pro-Constitution, MAGA, Make America Great Again, Make Louisiana Great Again, centric groups together. Would you talk about what you're up to there and how you hope to impact the future with those connections?
Donald Trump is a amazing political leader, a once in a generation leader, someone who has survived more attacks than any political leader I've seen in American history. No one could have survived what he faced. So he did, and part and parcel of the Donald Trump movement is the Make America Great Again agenda. So people got on board with Donald Trump, and I did from the day he came down the escalator. I want y'all to know this. On my radio show, I played his speech and I told my audience, this is my candidate. That was June of 2015. So I've been with him for 10 years. There are a lot of Johnny-come-latelys and a lot of people that joined later. And I had a guest on right after I played the speech for my audience, who said I was a fool and Donald Trump's a clown and they'll never go anywhere. And I love sharing that because it does show you, his fervent supporters are with him through thick and thin, and his haters, no matter what he does, just as he said at the State of the Union, they're not going to support him. So this Make America Great Again movement is popular all over the country. This is Trump country here in Louisiana. He won 60% of the vote in the last election. So his agenda should be adopted here in Louisiana. But we don't see a lot of that with the good old boys in Baton Rouge. We don't see a lot of it here in the state, which is one of the reasons why our state is in the predicament it's in.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is mobilize grassroots conservatives, different groups, to push a MAGA agenda to get our political leaders on board, from our statewide elected officials to our legislators, so that we can implement positive change in a number of areas. And our first initiative is to promote election integrity. And it's a good timing because Donald Trump just signed some executive orders on election integrity.
Yep.
Ballots, not accepting ballots after election day, making sure that non-citizens are not voting. And part of what Donald Trump wants to do with elections is to have paper ballots. He said it over and over again. Not paper receipts from a electronic voting machine, but paper ballots. And he believes in that. Our group believes in that. And this is what we're going to be reminding our leaders across the state of Louisiana that we're behind. And we think that they should adopt this as well, because our political leader, our president, has made it part of his agenda. So it should be the agenda of our leaders here in Louisiana.
Jeff, why do you think it is, being the astute political prognosticator that you are, why do you think it is that Governor Landry and Secretary of State Landry are seem to be deaf to Trump's very emphatic and repeated, as you said, call for hand-marked paper ballots? It's as though they're not listening. But at this point, I can't imagine that they're not aware of his position. Is it and their ignorance is willful? What is the pull? What is the pull that keeps them from fully embracing Trump's agenda when it comes to election security here in Louisiana?
They support voting machines. And they tell me, and those are supporters of voting machines, tell me that they believe that paper ballots are unworkable, would take too long, that those could be corrupted. So they're big supporters of voting machines, which I am not, and haven't been for a long time, for a variety of reasons. All we have to do is look at the 2020 election. So you're right. He's got his agenda. He's articulated it time and time again. Our leaders know what his agenda is, but they're going to try to make the point that they're following his agenda by buying voting machines that deliver what they call a paper receipt, where you can check your vote, where you can then have your vote audited, where they feel like that can satisfy the concerns of people that want election integrity here in Louisiana. And I think what our coalition has to do is educate people that there's a difference between a paper ballot and a paper receipt.
Yeah, absolutely. And apologies, I have a gnat that's harassing me right here. Jeff, so earlier this year, and I know you're aware of this, the Louisiana Republican State Central Committee resolved that Louisiana would move in the direction of paper ballots. We've also mentioned a couple times now that President Trump has been making an increasing number of strong statements, moving from machines to paper ballots. And just as you said, not paper receipts printed by a machine. You know, as you were talking about that, I live down here in Terrebonne. People down here work hard. You know, they're machinists. They are fishermen. They catch oysters. They go shrimping. They are welders. These are the people that do a lot of work on the wells. They're not so lazy that they need a machine to count ballots for them. And the fact that th- our government leadership would say that, you know, oh, counting paper ballots is really hard is just beyond me. But I wanted to play for you and get your take on this statement that you alluded to earlier that President Trump made in front of Governor Landry when he was at the White House last week for the signing of the deal on the steel mill with the Hyundai plant CEO, or the Hyundai CEO rather, the steel mill that's going to be coming to Ascension Parish. So if you don't mind, Jeff, I'll roll that clip and get your reaction to it.
To behave. We have to straighten out our country. We have to straighten out our elections. Our elections are very dishonest, very corrupt, and we have to straighten it out. And it's so easy to do it. And we should go to paper ballots. We should go to one-day voting. We should go to voter ID. And just one other thing, proof of a thing called citizenship in the United States. Wouldn't that be nice? How simple does that sound? Proof of citizenship, voter ID, one-day voting, and paper ballots. You know, paper ballots are very secure. They have watermark paper. It's very intricate stuff. It's very technologically advanced, even though it's paper. And you'd have no trouble. You wouldn't have dishonest elections, and you'd have them all done by 10 o'clock in the evening. You know, France went to that, and not that I want to copy anybody, but many others have also. And they had 38 million votes, and it was all done at 10 o'clock. They had a winner, they had a loser. That was it. Nobody was complaining. And they had it backed up with paper. And it's so easy to do. The other thing, you'd save about, this would cost you about 8% of what the machines cost. So the paper would be much less expensive. So if you're looking to save some money, that's a good way to save it. So it's a shame that we've gone through it. We've gone through a bad election, really bad election. The election was so bad. And think of it, you wouldn't have had.
We'll cut it off there.
I mean, what can I say? I mean, he makes the point very, very well. Governor Landry heard it. He says paper ballots, clearly. I mean, France does it, 38 million votes. We're not going to have that many votes here in Louisiana. So it can be done here. Obviously, we used to do it prior to machines here in Louisiana. And, you know, if it could have been done in the past, it certainly can be done now. And as he said, there's now technology where the paper is secure. They've got new developments which have made it even better. And not only is President Trump behind this, but a guy named Elon Musk, who is a rocket scientist, maybe the smartest guy in the world. He doesn't trust the voting machines. So if he doesn't trust the voting machines and President Trump doesn't trust the voting machines, I think we should be on the same page with them.
Yeah. And the idea that the people who share our position on this issue are some fringe crackpot minority, that myth is rapidly being that myth is rapidly being exploded, and the notion is becoming more and more laughable by the day. Jeff, I want to ask you specifically about this EO that Trump issued. There's a part in the EO dealing with electronic voting systems. And the wording of the EO is that the Secretary of Homeland Security, in coordination with the EAC, the Election Assistance Commission, is ordered to review and do a report on the security of all electronic voting systems in the country. Well, we know that electronic voting systems are all vulnerable. Computer voting is all vulnerable. So, and hopefully the Homeland Security Department will come back and say, President Trump, we did a report and review, and we have found that these computer-based voting systems are not vulnerable and not trustworthy. Two questions. At that point, if Trump follows up with a more specific EO prohibiting computer-based voting, obviously at that point, we don't have any choice. We can't go forward with an RFP here. But while this study is going on, and in anticipation of a review and report to President Trump about the security of these computer-based voting systems, isn't that enough right now to halt continued progress with this RFP? Because we don't know what the finding is going to be, right?
Exactly right. Exactly right. And, we already have enough evidence that we shouldn't go forward. We already know that all the major vendors use foreign parts in their machines, including parts from China, which is our foremost adversary, enemy. So how can we trust any machines and have Chinese parts? And it's really illegal anyway. So we can't go forward with any of these major vendors because of the fact that we have foreign parts that are involved in those machines. So for that reason, for President Trump's leadership on the executive order and what's coming, for financial reasons, for concerns about the overall validity of the vote, on and on and on. Yeah, this has got to be stopped, but I know it's going forward. They say that the machines we have now are too old, can't find parts, so we need to, have another $100 million contract. I mean, I was involved in efforts to stop Kyle Arjwan, who was trying to do it 5 years ago, and they want to do it again. So now's the time. That's why we're mobilizing this coalition to make this an issue now because of this impending RFP.
Where are we with the RFP, Jeff, in terms of progress toward that?
I mean, I'm hearing, she's moving forward. She wants to be doing testing, and the Secretary of State thing, talking about how we, can't continue with the machines that we have now. So she says it can't be in place, I guess, for these upcoming elections, but she wants it in place for the next set of elections. So, I mean, it's crunch time on this issue now, and
Yeah.
I want to get away from the machines we're using now as well. Of course, yeah, let's go to paper ballots and let's do it statewide. Now, the argument you'll hear from the Secretary of State and her supporters is that, well, there was a candidate in the race who wanted this, and he only got 6% of the vote. So you've only got 6% support for this across the state. And I reject that argument. That wasn't the only reason why that election turned out the way it did. And I certainly think if you ask people, especially Trump supporters, especially MAGA folks here in Louisiana, if they agree with President Trump on elections and on the need for paper ballots, I think there would be a resounding yes. I think it all is based on how the question is asked and who is being asked. But when I talk to people, guys, they tell me they're not comfortable with voting machines. They don't want to be spending another 100 million on new voting machines with Chinese parts. They support President Trump's agenda. They want to go to paper ballots, hand-marked paper ballots. So now's the time for us to mobilize and make this an issue, because we've got to stop this.
Yeah.
Trump.
And so both for political, as you said, Jeff, but specifically for legal reasons, she can't in good faith go forward with an RFP in which she wants to buy hundreds of millions of dollars worth of voting computers when there's an EO that has specifically ordered the Department of Homeland Security to deeply evaluate the safety and security of these systems. And so what happens if they come back again and say these things are vulnerable, we can't use them? And then President Trump, because elections are critical infrastructure, he clearly has jurisdiction to make such an order. So he bans the computers, but we've already bought them and they're already in place in Louisiana. I mean, what a fiasco that would be.
Yeah, then we've just wasted who knows how much on this that can't be used for legal reasons, for security reasons. So, yeah, for financial, voter integrity, many practical reasons, I think it is important that we not go forward with this. But let me tell you, the Secretary of State and most of these legislators reject all of this. So that's why our campaign, our communication is important to lay the case out. All we have to do is play that video
Yeah.
that Danielle just played of President Trump right in front of Governor Landry. I mean, that's about as clear of a message as we need right there. I mean, he
Yeah.
said it.
As Congressman Johnson stands to his right, nodding approvingly, and Jeff Landry stands to his left, looking like a nervous cat.
Well, I think that if they were to move forward with the purchase of these machines and then they got banned at the federal level, that would be a one-way ticket out of office. Absolutely, no questions asked. Do you think, Jeff, that this whole, if you think about what's happened over just the course of this last week, right? We saw the press conference just now, the clip. Then you move to the resounding defeat at the ballot box on Saturday. And I had one other thing that I was going to make such a great point. Let me see what the other one was. Oh, and the executive orders. Are Nancy and Jeff in just an absolutely untenable position to move forward, or do you think they will continue to push?
I think they're going to continue to push. They're convinced that this is the route to go. So this is where the grassroots need to get mobilized. And yeah, all of those factors you just laid out right there sort of can be used to sway public opinion here in Louisiana. I have no doubt that our efforts, grassroots efforts, were very key in stopping Kyle Ardoin from going forward with what he wanted to go forward with back in December of 2020.
Twice.
I think we can do it again.
Yeah. And if anyone is interested in hearing more about what's going on in the battle for the future of our election systems in Louisiana, a group that I'm a part of, We the People Bayou Community, is having a meeting on Thursday at 6:30 at the Courtyard Marriott in Houma. And I will play a little video of that at the end of the show today. But you can reserve your seat for that meeting at WTPBayou.org.
Yeah. And also, we have a call to action on the LACAG site, lacag.org, pushing the governor and the secretary of state and our representatives to halt the purchase of these computers and move forward with secure hand-marked paper ballots. So you're exactly right, Jeff. The grassroots is the key to victory here. There's no question. How can people get involved directly with the MAGA coalition on this issue? Because it's so important.
Yeah, so we have a website that we've just started, magalouisiana.org. And we have a coalition of 15 different groups, and I'm proud to say both of you are part of it. And we want to grow. We want to continue to grow over these next few weeks and months and add more to our coalition. We're going to be distributing a newspaper across the state, which is similar to what we did to Wake Up Kyle Arjuan. And I think, when people see some of the information in there, see who's behind this, get sort of reality check about what President Trump wants and how we're not following that, I think it could make a difference. So that's our first project, but then we're going to be moving on to other important issues as part of the MAGA agenda. And we want to align Louisiana with that, because I think it's not only good politics, but it's good for our economy, it's good for our state, can help our state grow. And obviously we've had problems. I mean, we're not growing. We're a state where we're losing population. And I think people are tired of the good old boy, politics as usual way of doing business here in Louisiana.
Yeah, well said. And after after this election initiative is over with and we've secured hand-marked paper ballots in Louisiana, we want to be able to say we're 1-0, and then we're moving on to the next vital issue that we have. So we're just very thankful for your leadership, Jeff, and we're just excited about working with you to get this done, because there's nothing more fundamental. Nothing.
I agree. And I think we've got great potential, and there are a lot of really, really good people here in Louisiana. We've got a great state. And
Yeah.
I just think we need to do a better job of pushing different issues, being more vocal, getting more involved, mobilizing more folks to affect political change. And I think this is what this coalition is all about. And I think we can be very successful. So I'm looking forward to it and looking forward to working with both of you.
Before we let you go, I want to let our listeners know here that this Thursday, we're going to have Commissioner Tim Temple, Insurance Commissioner, on the show to talk about crushing insurance rates and what we can do to get this monkey off of the backs of Louisiana citizens. Something has absolutely got to be done. And so we're looking forward to talking to Commissioner Temple on Thursday. Jeff Crouere, head host of Ringside Politics and really a political icon in the state of Louisiana. What a pleasure to have you today, sir. We look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yes. Thank you for what you all are doing, and keep up the great work. And thanks so much for having me.
God bless.
We appreciate you, Jeff. Thank you.
Take care.
Are you aware that Executive Order 13873 was activated in February 2025? Did you know that President Trump has called for secure hand-marked paper ballots in all elections, and that Elon Musk has stated there should be no machines in elections? Given this, why is Louisiana continuing to move forward with purchasing voting machines for over $100 million that we may not be able to use in the future? Join We the People Bayou community on Thursday, April 3rd at 6:30 p.m. at the Courtyard Marriott in Houma for the latest information on Louisiana election truths.